Chiefs Kingdom, welcome in. We got another edition of the AP Film Room YouTube show on the AP or the Arrowhead Pride YouTube channel. Appreciate you watching tonight or today, whenever you're watching. We got more football to break down. That's what we do here on the show. As usual, I'm Ron Kopp Jr., the lead analyst at the site arrowheadpride.com. Bryan Stewart. That way, actually, I'm going to point the right way to introduce you. Usually on the show, Bryan. How are you tonight, my friend? How are you feeling about the Chiefs?
Yeah, I'm still coming down a little bit from the emotional high of what Sunday was, man. I honestly, looking back, I don't know why, but I was more excited or into that game than any regular season game I can remember in a while. I think it's just the Super Bowl a couple years ago and kind of those Buccaneers players being so open about how they felt, and it almost brought the competitor out in me in a way, which is silly as can be. But so I think we're on cloud nine for now, and of course that can change quick, especially with the Raiders on the way in. But yeah, I don't have to tell you that though. We talked through it Sunday, so
Yeah, you were feeling it, man, and I felt that same emotion a little bit. It definitely was a higher intensity game, than we've had this year, in my opinion. Even the Chargers game, really, honestly, I know that game was intense, but Bucs are the Bucs, man. It was nice to get that revenge. And Nate is joining us as well on the show. Nate, new writer on the site. Make sure you're checking out his stuff on the site. It's been great so far, breaking down, really getting in depth on his breakdowns, and that's why we got him on the show tonight. We missed Talon tonight, but he's working on some draft content for you draft nerds out there, so he'll get that to you. But Nate, appreciate you coming in. Welcome in. How are you feeling about the Chiefs so far, man?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And I agree with Bryan. So I tweeted this out early in the week. I'm not a big bulletin board material guy. I kind of find that stuff to be useless for the most part, especially with professional football players. But I can't lie. When Shaq Barrett said the thing about the Chiefs offensive line, that kind of irked me just a little bit. And I was kind of like, I was pretty critical of the offensive line after week 3 because it was an atrocious performance in week 3. But I was like, oh, man, if there is any week to have a bounce back week, it's this week. And the offensive line was awesome. The offense was awesome. You could tell Andy Reid was just totally leaning into the offensive line. So I'm not there, but I'm going to guess that was something that was mentioned in the meeting rooms before the games. And it was awesome to see. And it was one of the best offensive performances, most fun I think I've had watching an offensive performance probably since the 2019 Chiefs. Like, it's been a while. And really I thoroughly enjoyed this game.
No, it really has been a while since we've seen that because the Cardinals game is one kind of blowout, but when you really take it to a number one scoring defense like that, it is fun. It is definitely fun. So yeah, and you talk about the Chiefs and the offensive line, weaponizing them a little bit. That's what you're going to be talking about on the show today, and we're going to be talking about offense on the show today for sure because that was the highlight of the game, right? But we want to start on the defensive side of the ball first, and Bryan, that's where I'm going to throw to you. You already have your review up on the site, but you kind of looked at the pass rush a little bit, kind of how they heated up Brady, how they were able to, kind of get an edge at first, right? They got up to that 21-3 lead. Yeah, they had 31 points at the end of the game, but that doesn't mean the defense didn't play well to initially get that cushion going at first. So, Bryan, take it away. Tell us how the pass rush and the defense in general played on Sunday.
Yeah, so one thing that you'll notice right offhand if you read the article or just watch right now, the pass rush starting the game was a little bit lackluster, and it didn't pop off the screen live. It didn't pop off the screen in review, but they did figure it out. They did start to blitz a little more. I think Spagnuolo, he wanted to just get pressure with 4, or at least try to, and for one reason or another, just not really having, the ability to win their one-on-ones. That didn't work out. So he started to change things up. This first play we're going to look at, you'll see it noted there. It's the first blitz they sent that was a drop back pass where, I think earlier in the game, Brady threw a screen pass, so it kind of got wiped out by that. But this was the first actual blitz versus a drop back pass, and the results were promising. You'll see here, Darius Harris, 47, filling in for Willie Gay. He gets through. And you'll notice from the end zone view, Brady calls him out as the mic there. they identify Harris as the Mike, but Spagnuolo kind of doing what he's been known for. He gets a blitz home. He set this up really well. Now you could say the offensive line, did they have an issue? Well, probably so. There's a miscommunication to be found. But what I came away with in the broad point of view is I think this is something they're going to have to do, just like they have had to do for the last 3 seasons with Spagnuolo. They're going to have to blitz maybe a little more than what's ideal, but I still don't see their defensive line being the type that's going to just dominate one-on-ones all game long. Now, it'll happen sometimes, but not against good quarterbacks or really good offensive lines. And so it's encouraging at least to see they were able to have success with this. And this isn't even showing, the sack that Snead had, which was just a little bit after this play took place. So yeah, my broad stroke of it, get used to this, because when they play the Bills or the Ravens and these high-level teams, I think we're going to see a lot of it. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's what they do well. It's what they've always done well.
So I have a quick question. What down is this? Because something I noticed, and Spags has always been pretty good at this, but he really did a good job, in my opinion, of just kind of bringing the blitz, at random times, right? And the Snead blitz was actually on first down. It was actually the first play of the drive after Clyde drops that 4th down pass. So it was kind of a momentum, to kind of counter that momentum shift. But do you know what down this is? I guess that was my first.
This is also a 1st and 10.
Yes. I could kind of tell because Derek Notty's on the field, right? This isn't a typical passing set, for the Chiefs defense, but that's what I really liked about Spags' game plan is the unpredictability of his blitzes and kind of bringing them at, it really does surprise Brady. I mean, to me, and so did the Snead blitz. So I just wanted to see if that was on first down, because I had a feeling it was.
Yeah, and this was first half. The Snead play was in the first half. Of course, as the game went along, not that they ever didn't have a pretty good lead other than the first drive, right? Like they were up 2-3 scores basically all night long. But it was in the second half when the one-on-one started to actually come through. We'll see that with the next clip I'm going to pull up. But this isn't the first game either. When they played the Chargers, it also happened that way, where it was like they were in good, well-conditioned, good shape, and kind of just outlasted the offense they were going against, to the point that, okay, you started seeing guys like Tershawn Wharton, which you're going to see on this clip, winning some clean one-on-one reps. George Karlaftis had one too. Frank Clark had a win. The ball came out really fast, so it didn't come to anything. But the reason I'm showing Wharton here and what he does to Shaq Mason. Shaq Mason's been a really good guard in the league for almost, I don't know, it seems like 8 years now. I'm not certain on the number, but Wharton, he had 3 wins in the fourth quarter alone that looked very similar to this right here. And this is what he's meant to do. He is meant to play in games with a lead and use his quickness to just get after the quarterback. Anything he does run defense wise is icing on the cake, and you don't really ask or expect a lot out of him in that way at defensive tackle. But this is what keeps him on the Chiefs roster, and it's really special. So like they did in the Chargers game, like they did against the Bucs, you just got to keep hoping to see them play with these leads. If they do, then this isn't the last time Wharton's going to be heating up the quarterback.
Well, yeah, Nate, I'll give you an opportunity. I know you kind of looked at the film today and went back and looked at defense and noticed Wharton. So I don't know how impressed are you with Wharton and maybe just the interior defensive line depth in general?
Yeah, I mean, Wharton dominated the second half of the Bucs game. I think, like you said, he had 3 wins. I feel like he had 4 hits in a row on Brady or something like that. He was just in the backfield every time, and he was winning on either shoulder. And the thing about Wharton is he's always been so explosive, but he's also so fluid, and he's really he's short. Yeah. So for a guard like Shaq Mason, who's this really big, long guard, but is a little tight in the hips, that's really hard to cover. You can see Shaq Mason in this clip. He has trouble getting hands on Wharton, period, because he's just small and he's kind of slithery. And to talk about the interior defensive line depth, that was my biggest question about the Chiefs coming this season. I did not like this defensive tackle room outside of Chris Jones at all. We knew what Derek Notty was going to be, but I didn't trust Tershawn Wharton. I did not trust Colin Saunders. Danny Shelton was obviously there, Taylor Stallworth. And they have far surpassed my expectations. And I think it's making a big, both in run defense and pass rush. And Wharton didn't have the best start to the season, but I do like to see him build off of this. And Saunders has been really good to start the season. And if those two guys are playing well, along with Noddy and Jones, like the interior defensive line is good. And I think we can change our expectations about the defensive line going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know, again, the pass rush, the defensive line just it wasn't great, right? Again, you'd like to see them win more, in that particular game, but the pass rush itself, the plan, the scheme, Brian, as you pointed out with blitzing, it did do enough. And so it's good to have Spags kind of have, that in his bag, right? Hey, I can scheme up a pass rush. But we do want to see, guys like Wharton and Saunders, maybe even more, so the pass rush can kind of even be better. But defense is one thing. Let's talk offense now. And Nate, you broke down the offense, the foundation of the game plan, which I think you hit it. And I'm excited for this because you nailed it on the head. What they kind of went into with, what they wanted to hit on, what they wanted to dominate with. And so I'm going to let you take it away. Talk about how the Chiefs offense put up 41 on, what was the number one scoring defense in the NFL. I doubt Tampa still holds that title after week 4.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if you haven't read my article, I wrote about the Chiefs' usage of unbalanced twins. And what unbalanced twins basically comes down to is, as you can kind of see in my formation here, Andy Reid this week used a lot of unbalanced twins and stack. I don't know if that's how he calls it exactly, but to summarize it very quickly, you have 2 tight ends up to the top on the short side of the field, and then you have your wide receivers stacked at the bottom of the formation. And from a defensive standpoint, this is hard to defend. This is what you would call like an unbalanced formation, because as a defense, you line to your run or to your passing strength. Well, if your run strength is to your 2 tight ends on the wide side of the field, well, now we might need to commit an 8th defender to the box. Well, if you're going to do that, you're leaving 2 or 3 bodies in the passing game. So against the Todd Bowles defense, especially a 3-4 and an aggressive style defense, this is a way to simplify your looks defensively. And first, I think it started with the run game. Andy Reid called every single run this week. I mean, there were very few runs Andy did not call this week. He ran like zone insert, inside zone, outside zone, toss pinball. Like he had everything in his bag this week. Yep. Well, my favorite plays this week were when he got into GT counter. And to give kind of a quick summary of GT counter, it's a run play where your guard and your tackle will pull around while your offensive line works on the opposite side, giving your running back 2 pullers. And I'll just start the clip here. Chiefs are in shotgun. They're in the red zone here. Trey Smith and Andrew Wiley are going to pull around. This is a great run by Pacheco. First things first, that contact balance was tremendous. But we'll kind of watch the blocking here. As you can kind of see, I have it diagrammed here. And what makes GT counter effective is from a numbers position, it's really hard to block. The Buccaneers are in 2 high safeties here. They're playing a quarters type coverage. And while they have responsibilities in the fit, given that it's quarters coverage, they're late. Like they have to be late to fill. They're not in the box ready to fill. And because of Mahomes' ability as an RPO thrower, his ability to roll out, your backside defensive end has to worry about him. So you're losing a body there. So when you have 7 guys and a running back versus 3, Kelsey's blocking an edge that's off the screen and 2 linebackers, that's a 7-on-6. You have an instant win. Even though this safety fills down late, Pacheco can beat him. So to kind of we'll play this run from the end zone view again. And you just kind of see, like, even with this safety filling late, that backside defensive end chasing, like, that Wiley does miss his blocks, and that's where Pacheco's, like, contact balance comes in. But, like, it's hard. Like, from a numbers position, it was really hard. And when the Bucs wanted to play quarters, Andy Reid just dominated running the ball. Same thing here. Notice again, 2 high safeties. The numbers position is in the box for the Chiefs to run into again. So Mahomes is going to motion Clyde into the other side. I don't know if that was an audible call, but they run GT counter again. And Clyde makes a really good read to go upfield. But you can kind of see, again, these safeties are deep. And if this backside defensive end, it'll be more noticeable this time. He's staring at Patrick Mahomes because Patrick Mahomes might roll out against him. So, these 2 runs, they only go for 8 yards. But the numbers game is a big advantage for the Chiefs. And we just haven't seen them take advantage of that in recent years. And that's a big change for the Chiefs, being able to run the ball and getting into the right looks, especially out of these unbalanced looks. You can get favorable run looks kind of whenever you want, especially if a defense is presenting 2 high safeties.
Yeah, no, I love this. GT counter is one of my favorite plays that we don't see enough from them. I ran it in high school all the time. Little Mustang. They called it Mustang for the GT. And the thing is there's a and you kind of talked about it, but they can pass off of it, right? There can be that. There can be a 2-man, even depending on how it shakes out, a 3-man route on the backside of it that Mahomes can pull and play to. And,
right.
I don't think they went to that too much in this game, but they're setting it up, right? They're setting up, defenses to kind of maybe, all right, we're tired of giving up 6-7 yards of carry. So, these players, these flat force players, these force players, kind of, between the box, inside, outside the box, they might be creeping a little closer to the box, the more the Chiefs do this. And that's going to open up more space for like a McColl on a quick screen to the outside off of this. And with Juju and MBS as guys that can block in front of him. So I love the capabilities of this, Nate. I'm glad you pointed this out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like if you have to punish teams in the NFL for playing quarters, for playing too high. You have to run the ball right now. These teams have gotten so good at just taking away and restricting space that you have to run the ball. And with this offensive line and the numbers advantage, the Chiefs can just keep doing it. And I don't know how long until teams start to adjust their fronts to account for this. But as long as they're not, keep doing it. It's super effective.
Well, and that brings up a question I had for you, actually, with these heavier personnels, when they're getting into these 12, 13 personnels, this was 12 personnel, but they were running out of 13 personnel, passing out of 13 personnel, like you highlighted on the site before. But I mean, in terms of passing out of those heavy, these heavy pass packages, which are you going to get into that here as well? Well, then why don't you pull that up? Because that is what I was curious about. But because they had a lot better time passing out of the heavier sets this time than they did before. So it was cool to see. So why don't you go ahead and look at that?
Yeah, in week 3, I was very critical of Andy Reid's passing game at 12 personnel, and it just didn't make sense. Like he would have these like tight ends like flexed out as wide receivers and then try and run play action. And the defensive line just had like no like respect for the run at all. And it was all these like deep vertical concepts, and the Colts are playing man to man against it, and just no one was open. Like no one could get open. And like people were critical of Pat after that game, and I did not understand why. Like no one was open at all for him to throw to. But this week, the passing structures were so much better. And to pull up this one, this was, I believe, in the 3rd quarter. And again, the Chiefs are in the red zone. And as we talk about, you can kind of see the safety. He's starting to creep down into the box to be in the run fit. And with Thobel's defense, that means you're getting cover 3 pretty much every time. And that's what they're going to come at this here. So we see McColl. He's going to be running on the slice route, and I'll start playing it here. And Justin Watson's going to run the post corner. And this play got a lot of attention because people were talking about how, well, Mahomes just missed McColl. And I think in a vacuum, you're correct. McColl was wide open, and that could have been a touchdown. But you can kind of see from Mahomes' eyes, he sees that. But he also sees this post safety in the middle of the field. So from his perspective, he's not expecting the safety to just like lose track of McColl Hardman, who's really fast. So he understands he has a one-on-one up top with Justin Watson. And we've seen the Chiefs hit this in the past. Yep. And honestly, I think it's a fine read. I think it's a fine decision. Obviously, McColl was open for the touchdown. But like most cases, you're not expecting that safety to just absolutely blow that coverage. And you have the one-on-one up top. And I don't know if it's taught that way, but I'm fine with him throwing this. I don't think this is a great throw or a great route, period. He obviously gets tripped up at the end. But overall, I think this is perfectly fine, like process from Mahomes. I think if this is a better wide receiver or a better throw, I think this is a touchdown as well. So again, building this off to go back to that 12 personnel point, when your safety is down and a defense has to respond with cover 3, this is a easy route concept to generate a one-on-one. And I don't know, maybe that's MVS, maybe that's Skye Moore running Justin Watson's route, but there's multiple options to get one-on-ones, and this is an easy way out of an unbalanced look to keep generating explosive plays.
Well, and you mentioned the guy I was going to ask Bryan about here because, I do think there's a theme, right? Teams are playing, risking a little more one high stuff, risking those cover 3 looks, giving, like you just mentioned, kind of putting their corners, trusting their corners more in island situations without Tyreek Hill on this team. Bryan, is this where you'd like to see maybe Skye Moore instead of Justin Watson? I mean, Watson's been a great, part of this receiving core, but I would like to see, them kind of maybe trust more in these situations, no pun intended, obviously. What do you think about, this is where we'll talk about Skye maybe a little bit, what you're thinking about what he can do.
Skye, and he showed it with his couple targets. He's got strong hands. He's a hands catcher, and which is a different mold than say what they had with Hill. And even though Hardman does use his hands from time to time, it's not as smooth. So he just in a lot of ways he brings something that the other receivers don't, right? And that's not taking anything away from them, but the way that he can win quickly at the line of scrimmage is different. I don't mind this particular play. Watson, this has kind of been his sweet spot so far, and he has jarred open a couple times and been a viable target. But I guess, if Moore played 22 snaps on Sunday, I think there's definitely room for that to grow. I think it will grow. He didn't do anything to my eye that, would warrant him having a lesser snap count. So it's encouraging all around. And if they'll keep running the ball like this, or at least even close to it, this effectiveness, then all these receivers, we're going to see them really, hit stride, I think.
Well, you mentioned, the 2 targets, and I do have them clipped up. So this is where we'll talk about Skye for a second before throwing it back to you, Nate. But he did get a couple opportunities, right, on these play action, kind of RPO looks, these slant routes that Mahomes does love to throw to. He's always loved to throw to like a Tyreek or whoever, honestly. I mean, Byron Pringle. So it is kind of good to see him get those kind of looks, those easy ways to get the ball in his hands. So that was good. I was glad to see that, Nate. Were you glad to see Skye get maybe some, this again, this is, them planning this play to go to him, right? I mean, this was, they put him in for this play to go. So that's kind of what I liked about it,
right,
for Skye.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think, I'm not there in the building every day, so I can't tell you what Skye's doing during practice, how well he picks up the playbook, but he's honestly just the most explosive route runner on this team. He's not as fast as Michael Hardman, but his route tree is just much more expanded. And NVS and Juju are fine role players. I think they fit certain aspects really well. But Skye just opens up different elements of the offense in the short and intermediate game. And, it was only 3 targets this week for him, but you just see that his just burst off the line of scrimmage is so much better than these other guys, his ability to run after the catch. So, yeah, I hope we definitely see more Skye as the year goes on.
Well, I got sidetracked a little bit. Why don't you get back to I think you had one more play to show us.
I do.
To your point. So
yeah. So like I mentioned, you can kind of see again, this is an 8th guy in the box, but Todd Bowles actually calls a different coverage this time. He did change up into a 2 invert, which is just cover 2, except this cornerback is going to just roll and be like the half field player as this safety goes over. And this play, Mahomes has what is called an alert read, which is basically hey, if you see this open versus a 2-eye look, you're just going to throw it every time. And it's open, so I'll just let this play roll out here. And it's an amazing throw, obviously.
Yes.
I'm sorry about the green. I couldn't get a better recording of that. But, he just steps up.
Film. Yeah.
It was terrible. It was driving my eyes insane. But yeah, it's a great throw, obviously, to MVS. But what I really like about this play is the design would work against cover 3 as well. So let's just say, hypothetically, this safety just kind of stands in the middle of the field. He doesn't go as the half field, and both cornerbacks take a third of the field. Right. Well, that seam is still open. So again, when we get into these unbalanced looks, it really simplifies the defense because they have to bring either a safety down and play basically cover 1 or cover 3, or they have 2-eye safeties and then you punish teams for running the ball. So if teams are going to dedicate more resources to running the ball, seams, middle of the field are just always going to be open, screens. And it's something, again, it just feels like Andy Reid was much prepared for this. And while maybe different teams are going to try out different strategies for defending these types of formations, these throws are open. And we talked about it in the pre-show, but when's the last time the Chiefs targeted anything down the seams?
Right.
It's been such a long time. And I'm just glad to see that's an element of this offense because it's open. It's open. It can be open every single time if the Chiefs want to, if they get into these formations.
I love it, Nate. Yeah, you're right. I mean, and we didn't even show the other play, down the seam, Kelsey running up that seam and the back shoulder low throw away from contact.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes was on one. There is no doubt about that. And Andy Reid was too. But I wanted to also look at the offense, but I honestly, one of my biggest takeaways from this game, kind of a low-key takeaway, it wasn't low-key because he had a great game, but just the fact that Travis Kelce, Mahomes and Kelce's connection, like they just defenses try to take it away. Teams like, maybe they're not selling out double teaming him, but like teams are very cognizant of Kelce and maybe not this first play, but the second play is a great example of it. And they just don't make it matter. Mahomes and Kelce just don't make it matter. So it was really cool to see that. It was especially the case on Sunday. I wanted to actually look at this first play though, because I think it's just a great little wrinkle that Andy puts in. But honestly, this is where I want your guys' opinion, because I don't know if this is a game planned action or if Kelce does this improv. So this is just a little, out of trips. A lot of what you like to do out of trips is like they're called, a lot of, it's like a Z spot, and Kelce runs the spot route where he just kind of sits, and then there's a flat route and then there's a vertical route. Usually it's a corner more than just a straight vertical, but it's a vertical here. So that's a typical route, right? And someone like Lavonte David, who's played a lot of football in his life, he's going to feel that, and this is the second play of the game too, mind you, second play of the game. He's going to feel that kind of route developing. He's going to see Juju go to the flat. He's going to feel like, okay, Kelce's sitting on that, right? It's a spot route. I've played this over and over millions of times. And so he's just gonna, muscle memory is going to take him to that route. And, if this was any other tight end, this probably doesn't just turn into a touchdown that quickly. But Kelce is so quick with his fake, so subtle with it, that by the time David, realizes, oh shoot, he's not actually running that route. Look where Kelce is by the time he's reacting. I mean, just an unbelievable, quickness, the subtle fake and everything. And so I just wanted to point this play out because, it's not necessarily the hardest play to make, right? But it's just the little things that Kelce does. But yeah, I guess I want your take, and Nate, I'll just ask you real quick. Do you think this was part of the play? Like Andy was like, all right, you're going to do this. It's going to fake the linebacker. It's going to be great. Or do you think this is just Kelce and Mahomes kind of saying, look, we're going to get David on this. He's going to, it's kind of an in the moment thing. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, it is in the first 15 plays, so that's what makes me think it's probably part of the play. But what do you think?
I do think that this was designed to do it based somewhat off like Kelce's movement, but also like the design of this play. And I was going to talk about this for a second. Like the design of this play is absolutely beautiful. Like just that like backside dig from Skye Moore, like holding that safety, holding that flat defender out of the way. It gets a one-on-one for Kelce. And as good as Lavonte David is, like that is just an impossible matchup.
Right.
It's a terrific route, but I think the design of this to me indicates that they wanted that one-on-one or the middle of the field and to get Travis Kelce in space in the red zone. But regardless, it's a terrific route. I mean, there's no tight end in the league that is as fluid as Kelce, as good as a route runner. Like, it's honestly insane. I think he's 33 now. Like, the movement he can do at his age is absolutely insane. Lavonte David is an awesome linebacker, especially in coverage, and he just looks absolutely silly here.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. I think it is part of the play because you're right. They do set it up, and the other thing too is you're in the red zone, so a lot of the times the linebacker is going to go with the running back out in the flat, the other side, Devin White, because I do think this is kind of a quarters, kind of a man match type of coverage where, they're not necessarily in man, but, they gravitate to a certain person once they enter their zone. So they kind of know Devin White's going to widen with that flat or, with that flat route to the running back. So it is a really well run play. But not the only one that's to Kelce that I wanted to highlight. So Kelce, he had this third down play, which I'm trying to get to. But this was the play that I really think is hilarious to me. It just felt like the Bucs kind of really knew what was happening here. This is about 3rd and 10. Actually, it is 3rd and 10. And we see this all the time, what the Chiefs do. They run a simple out at the sticks to Kelce with the wide receiver running vertical, and it's if it's good timing, and a lot of the time it hits. But I feel like the Bucs are pretty prepared for it here. They're in a cover 3 look. The deep safety is kind of shaded towards that side, but it is cover 3, and so that corner has that third of the field, and he's waiting for that out route to Kelce. Man, Carlton Davis is waiting. Because there's nothing special about the route, man. That's what, he never tried to sell anything else. He is running and out at the sticks. And you see, with after faking the blitz, that Devin White is bailing out, sprinting his butt off to sandwich that route with Davis, so there's no room for that throw to go. And Mahomes just makes it not matter. Mahomes, first of all, the best thing I like, the thing I like about it the most is he actually kind of rushes his footwork a little bit here. Not rushes it, but he's just perfect. He doesn't hitch up at all, right? He's right off that back step. He's as soon as that back step hits, the ball is out. And just the placement of it too. So I want to back up and kind of pause it at the placement. So if this ball is any further out in front, Davis is taking Kelsey's head off. If this ball is any more inside, White's getting a hand on it. Where else could this ball be? It's just a perfectly thrown ball on an out route where it's probably really easy to lead him too far outside and get him rung up on that play. And he just puts it exactly where it needs to be. So it's just one of those plays that it's a reminder how ridiculous this connection is, Brian. I don't know, did you notice the Kelsey connection as crazy on Sunday, or just, what are your impressions of it so far this season? Because to me, it's just amazing that they're still able to be this elite without Hill kind of helping them maybe take some attention away from Kelsey.
That's the thing is, I think some people thought, well, Hill's gone now. So
I thought that.
And I think everyone a little bit. You had thought it here as well. It just makes sense. But production-wise, nothing has dropped off yet. It looks the same. He's getting open in the same ways. And the other thing I would touch on this play that kind of unlocks it for him is when the line plays like this. Do I think there was bulletin board involved this week? I do. You look at some of the stuff that those guys were tweeting. I saw, it's pretty funny. Orlando Brown and Trey Smith, they were firing off some good stuff. I think they did. But if they'll play like this every week, take care of pressures like this, which they were really struggling with in the weeks prior, then Mahomes is going to be able to fire accurate passes like that, have his way, whether it's Kelsey or anybody else.
And I'll add, to go back to that Hill point, I think this was the other thing I was contemplating writing about this week, is Andy Reid is so good at getting his wide receivers just easy opportunities, moving him around formationally, especially with Kelsey at this age of his career, putting him in line. You see these little walk motions, people understand why do they do that? It's to get Kelsey a better look. It's to get him more space. It's not just a coverage identifier. And even back to that last play, putting him out wide and then motioning him in, that gets him a free release. I think I underestimated Andy Reid's ability without Tyreek Hill's gravity to just find the easiest ways to get Travis Kelsey open space. It's honestly the thing I think Andy Reid is best at. He gets so much credit for his creativity, his ability to develop quarterbacks, but he makes his wide receivers' jobs so easy.
I love that point because you're right. I mean, and this is the ultimate test of it. I mean, teams know they want to go to Kelsey on third down in the red zone, and Kelsey has 3 touchdowns this year and has the second most catches that turned into a first down, and 24 of his 26 catches have turned into either a first down or a touchdown. I mean, it's just crazy that he's still doing this. This last play I want to show, it's the Jody Fortson touchdown. It has nothing to do with Kelsey's ability to score, but it does have something to do with maybe the attention he receives. And I like this play design too. I mean, it's pretty simple, honestly. What they do here is they get into a 3-by-1 set. It's 12 personnel, so they have 2 tight ends. So Kelsey and Fortson are both on the field. To your point, Nate, they were hammering that unbalanced look out of 12 personnel all game, and then they come out and spread it out a little bit here. Maybe catch the Bucs off guard a little bit with that. But also, it's a 3-by-1 look at first with the running back shaded to the Fortson side. But the pre-snap motion sends him into the flat to the left. All of a sudden, you have a 4-by-1 look. You have 4 receivers to one side, and Fortson's the only receiver to his side. And I just want to point out the attention that Kelsey receives from Levante David here. It just makes that throw super easy to Fortson for a touchdown. And you almost can't blame David. It's a 4-by-1, look. Why, how much space does he need to necessarily get, and backpedal over there because there's only one receiver over there. But it's because Kelsey is over, to his right. He wants to kind of take away kind of what that route kind of, almost a route that could have been similar to the first touchdown, kind of coming across Devin White's face. Levante's kind of maybe thinking about that. And so it just gives Fortson a wide open window to for Mahomes to throw to for a touchdown. So just wanted to highlight that, I do like these red zone packages with Fortson and Kelsey on the field, because it does feel like Kelsey's helping Fortson get open. But, if they do start to give Fortson more attention, then Kelsey's going to, obviously be a threat. So it's just really giving them this dynamic, kind of a wrinkle they didn't have in the past with these two tight end sets, Fortson and Kelsey both being really good red zone threats. So wanted to point that out. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, fellas? Maybe on the red zone offense or these looks of Fortson?
I'll go. Yeah, again, this is just another play about just Andy Reid just getting a receiver an easy look. Like, this play was entirely obviously designed for Jody Fortson in the red zone. So how do you get him the most space? Put 4 guys on that side of the field. Like, defense is going to respond, like shading their coverage, flooding their coverage to that field. Got a 1-on-1 on the bottom. And Jody Fortson is going to win that at a time. If that, like, I don't know if this is technically a choice route or not, but if Carlton Davis plays it inside, you have a fade. If you can see he kind of plays outside leverage, you have the slant. I don't know if this play is designed for Jody to pick that, but either way, it's a 1-on-1.
I bet it is. That's a good call. Because if you get press here, then I bet it's going. You go corner fade to the end zone. I think that makes sense. Bryan, how are you feeling about Fortson so far in the red zone offense? Kind of what because I don't know the mark right now, but it seems like they've been really good in the red zone converting drives into touchdowns. How are you feeling about it?
Sometimes I worry about it being a little predictable, right? It seems like every time he's on the field inside the 10, the ball's going to 88.
Right.
But then Mahomes does stuff like this, and because when you pause it before the snap, there's nothing about this defense that makes you think this is a great look for a slant, because the corner is to his inside. The safety there just at the front of the end zone is in that general area. Levante David, great coverage linebacker who could be dropping into that window. But Mahomes has a rocket arm. And you talked about Kelsey, his attention that took David kind of away. And then Fortson's size is kind of enough to beat Carlton Davis. So even when it doesn't really look good on a whiteboard per se, they score an easy touchdown. So he's a weapon. There's no doubt.
Yeah, no, he really is, man. He has scored twice this year, or not 3 times, right? He's only scored twice, I believe.
I think two maybe 3.
Because he played in Arizona, yeah. So, yeah, no, Fortson's definitely been, he's picking up from where he left off last year. So, and we are picking up, the Chiefs are picking up, I guess, kind of from where they left off, at some points last year. Finally looking like that explosive offense that, we saw beat the Bills in the divisional round. And kind of just be who they are, right? It was nice to see them do that against the Bucs. But that is all we got for tonight. We are going to be back here next week breaking down that Raiders game. We got a Monday nighter, so we might, I don't know, we'll see. We might have to push it a day back on AP Film Room. But hope everyone enjoys watching that game. Hope everyone enjoyed watching tonight. Make sure you either leave a review, comment, like and subscribe to the YouTube page. Appreciate it. I'm Ron, for Bryan, for Nate. It's been a really fun night. Appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate these guys putting in work and getting a great breakdown on the Chiefs. And we will catch you next time on AP Film Room.